This is the Cubs POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Chicago Cubs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Cubs POSTCAST here on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. The Cubs win 7-3 against the Cincinatti Reds. They take the series before a long stretch of baseball games with very few days off before the All-Star break. Joe George here with you on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, any social media platform at Joe George Radio. Lots to get to on today's show. Great day for Jameson Taillon. Excellent day at third base from Matt Shaw. Plus, we had big plate appearances and at-bats from Michael Busch, Crow-Armstrong, Nico Hoerner. All very good things. We'll get the latest that we can get on Kyle Tucker and why he left today's game as well. So we'll get to all of that, plus your comments and reaction as well, live here on YouTube. Let's start with today, our Locked On Player of the Game.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, we're going to go two for today on the Locked On Player of the Game. The first part of this, let's talk about Jameson Taillon today. 6 1/3, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 97 pitches total. Only really the home run he gave up to Elly De La Cruz, which they said at the end of the broadcast is the hardest hit home run at Wrigley Field in the StatCast era, which is since 2015, which is absolutely insane. But very good day, again, from Jameson Taillon on the mound. 6 of his last 7 starts, quality starts. Doing it a little bit differently. Not a lot of strikeouts in this game. A lot of pop-ups into the infield. Like there wasn't major contact happening from the Reds. And we've obviously seen over the last week, the 6 times the Cubs have played the Reds, they've got a lot of guys in their lineup that can do major damage and hit the ball very hard. So great day from Jameson Taillon. He was very good in this game. And look, it was a little overreactionary, it looks like, waiting to see what happened. Of course, 7 home runs in 8 innings that we saw from him in 2 outings. Since then, he has settled down in such a major way. Jeremy says here in the chat, wait till the song is over. The song was over for me. They started talking on the TV broadcast. That's when the song ends for me. I waited till then. I'm trying, guys. The song's it's long. We can't wait forever to get this thing going. But Jameson Taillon was very good in this game. And look, the Reds are not a great team, but this was a grind, these 6 games. They are a competitive team. They challenged the Cubs, even though the Cubs won 4 out of the 6 of these games over the last week. They challenged the Cubs in a lot of different ways, whether it's through good pitching from their starters, good hitting from their lineup, a little bit of everything. Besides the Reds bullpen, the Cubs, everything was a little bit back and forth, I would say, in these 2 series. But hey, a win is a win, and it was a very good one today for the Cubs, led by Jameson Taillon. So we go from the lineup to the guys to our Locked On Player of the Game from the lineup. Michael Busch. There we go. Spent a lot of time on yesterday's show on the postcast. If you missed it, I'm frustrated that he's not getting regular at-bats against lefties. And it's because of what he can do, like we saw in this game today. The home run was huge. The RBI single against a lefty was huge. Also, very, very important. Just getting into a 3-0 count to where they intentionally walked him to make it bases loaded before Nico Hoerner came up and drove in 2 RBIs. Nico Hoerner this year hitting .424 with runners in scoring position on the season. That number is absurd. I mean, we know Nico is a very good baseball player, and he's clutch, but hitting .424 with runners in scoring position, a lot of times it's to the opposite field, and doing all of it with no power, no home runs on the season. Not sure when he'll get his first one. Probably not until the wind flips and it's blowing 20 miles out of Wrigley Field will Nico finally get one this season. But he too does his job today. But Michael Busch was great in this game. The home run, it just right there felt like the major momentum shift of this game. First time we see him in the lineup against the Reds this weekend. And then to come up there, I'm glad Craig Counsell kept him in. That the Reds bring in a lefty to face Michael Busch. You leave him in there. You don't have to put Justin Turner in every single time, just like you didn't in Saturday's game, bring in, Michael Busch to face a righty. Let it happen. He needs his at-bats. He's only had 24 on the season, and that was his 24th at-bat versus a lefty. this year. So he has such a small sample size. So give him a chance. Let the dude play. Michael Busch can swing the bat just like a lot of the other guys in this lineup. And then Pete Crow-Armstrong, another, really good bounce back performance from him. He's obviously been scuffling a little bit, swinging at pretty much everything. It doesn't really matter at this point. He can swing at whatever he wants. He's so good. But there's going to be days where he strikes out 3 times. But PCA today, 3 for 4, an RBI, and 2 stolen bases on the day. We saw what he can do on the base pass in this game. Look, the Cubs were 2 for 2 in this game. So Kyle Tucker got thrown out, who we'll talk about his injury and what happened and kind of what's just next for him. But also Nico was thrown out on the base pass today. Something we haven't seen a lot of, honestly, from the Cubs this year. I think they have the highest successful stolen base percentage in the MLB right now, and PCA is obviously a big part of that. Kyle Tucker, it was the first time he had got caught stealing since 2024. He is not the fastest guy on the field, but typically, except for today, when he went face first into the dirt and apparently hurt his finger as well on that play, he's been excellent on the base pass. But Pete Crow-Armstrong, another good day for him as well. And I know it's just he's going to go through ups and downs. He's a young player, but to see the way he was hitting the ball today too, it wasn't all power. It was just getting on base. And I want more. I want to be selfish with Pete Crow-Armstrong. I want to see more of what we saw from him today, is that when he's on base, letting him just run, like whether it's Dansby Swanson behind him, Nico, whoever is behind him in the lineup, let PCA run. He's so fast. Like, even if he gets thrown out, what's the big deal? Like it is different, obviously, when he was hitting leadoff. You don't want him to get it out on the base pass with Kyle Tucker and Seiya Suzuki coming up to the plate, right? I understand the logic behind that. Makes total sense. But when Pete Crow-Armstrong is batting 5th, like he is, I want to see him run as often and as frequently as possible, no matter who it's against. Because, Stevenson, he was throwing guys out today. He had a very good day behind the plate. Even the plays for PCA weren't, super easy, I would say. Like, they were competitive at second base. But just let that man run. Like, when he's on base, let him go. Let him take second whenever he is on first base. All right, we'll take a break here. We'll talk more about this game. Get your questions and comments in the chat live here on YouTube as well. And we'll talk about Kyle Tucker and if he's going to miss any time at all, what the Cubs should do. All coming up next here on the Locked On Cubs postcast on the Locked On Cubs YouTube channel. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crackin is a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to helping keeping you feeling fuller longer. We go with the no-shell variety, also the ones that come in the box of like 6 with the individual packets of them. Super easy. That way I can pack them for a snack, either it's for me, my son, whoever, my wife. Easy snack taken to on the go with Wonderful Pistachios. Get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs the protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, more from this game today and your questions and comments here in the chat. So Kyle Tucker leaves the game in, the 5th inning of the game today after an at-bat. Wasn't sure, obviously, what it was at first. We saw a little bit of blood on his nose after he went face first into the dirt there. And then we find out eventually, though, it's a jammed right ring finger for Kyle Tucker. You can see on the slide, the one he was thrown out on, kind of his right hand kind of goes below his body, gets lost there, depending on the camera angle you're looking at. But the assumption is kind of that's where it got hurt. Hopefully it's just because it's a jam. He's not going to be missing too much time. But look, again, the Cubs only have, including Monday, only have 4 off days between today and the All-Star break. You got off days today, June 16th, June 30th, and July 7th. It is going to be a lot of Cubs baseball between now and the All-Star break. They've obviously had some days off, and Craig Counsell's already talked about how they're going to be changing some things up during this stretch because they've been able to, with the off days, been able to kind of keep the same lineup in place for the most part. Kyle Tucker has played in every single game, whether it's in the field or at DH. Pete Crow-Armstrong has played in every single game. Besides injuries, most of this lineup is out there besides your catcher position on a regular basis and at first base. So we've seen these guys grinding through this season so far, And again, Craig Counsell is saying like that's probably going to change up a little bit here, especially with 26 games in 27 days starting on Tuesday. So if Kyle Tucker's hurt, first of all, like look, it's a jammed finger. I can't imagine this would be an IL stint, knock on wood, or anything like that. But if he was, you obviously have guys you can bring up. I do think I saw the answer here in the chat for me. This is where if Kyle Tucker were to miss time, again, I don't think he will. This is where I would bring up Moises Ballesteros, let him DH every single day, say it plays right field, problem solved, you are good to go right there. That to me is pretty cut and dry if Kyle Tucker were to have to miss any time, or if any outfielder misses time at some point this season, pretty much. That is the solution that you would go for this year. So hopefully Kyle Tucker's back in the lineup on Tuesday. Jam fingers are weird, of course. Like we don't know how hurt that's going to be in terms of holding a bat or anything like that. He did obviously swing there in the 5th inning, I believe it was, before he left the game, and Brujan came in for him in right field. So he wasn't hurt enough to where they had to take him out of the game immediately after the slide. He also got hit on the toe in this game as well. So Kyle Tucker got beat up a little bit between a little bit of blood on the nose, finger, toe. It was a tough day at the ballpark for Kyle Tucker, it seemed like, in this one. All right, other things from this game. Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw. Man, no hits on the day, but holy cow, the 2 defensive plays that he had in the 7th inning. I mean, that first one, he is on his knees, basically, and just sticks his glove up into the air and throws that thing all the way across the diamond on an absolute rope. I mean, that throw and play was phenomenal by Matt Shaw. Then he got the pop-up for the second out, and then he had another great play to end the inning. It was the Matt Shaw inning defensively there in the 7th. He continues to be excellent at third base for the Cubs. So the bat has been, it's a roller coaster a little bit, right? It's not, it's been pretty positive since he came up. It's the most hits for a third baseman, unless someone has passed him in the last, 24 hours. The most hits by a third baseman since May 19th, which is when he returned to the Cubs. But it's not like he's going out there every single day. Not that we should expect him to, getting on base. But he's had multiple multi-hit games, multiple RBI doubles in this one. We haven't seen a ton of the big power from him, but we've seen great defense from Matt Shaw. So he's just been fantastic, honestly, for the Cubs at third base. Couldn't be happier with what it's been now, especially with how the struggles were just at that position as a whole. They've done such a good job, and he's done such a good job filling that gap, because when you thought about the Cubs and you're like, okay, if they're going to add at the deadline, where are they going to add? At the time, it felt like third base was the easy answer, and Matt Shaw has made that a lot more complicated to add to this lineup at the deadline if you even wanted to do it. But he's really just played outstanding defense, and the bat, again, has been pretty good so far since he returned to the majors. So this is a good series win. This is a team in the Reds, again, that their record doesn't indicate it, but they have probably been one of the harder teams, toughest series for the Cubs this year. You think about the Padres and the Dodgers and those series. I think the Reds won, at least, gut feeling here, kind of off the top of my head, feels like the 2 toughest series the Cubs have faced, besides those elite teams they have faced this year. They really challenged the Cubs in a lot of different ways, and I think the Cubs responded really positively as well. A couple other notes from this game that we want to get to before we wrap up today's show. Again, if you have questions, comments, drop them there in the YouTube chat. Ryan Pressly. There we go. Ryan Pressly. 1 inning pitched, 3 strikeouts on 15 pitches. He's dropped his ERA down to a 4.71 ERA. I was skeptical coming into the season that Ryan Pressly would adjust well outside of the closer role. It didn't seem like he did last year in Houston. It seemed like it was a problem for them. No matter what you think of the Astros, they developed pitching like crazy, and they gave up on Ryan Pressly. They got absolutely nothing in return for him. And Ryan Pressly started your year as the closer, has 1 disaster outing. The analytics told you it wasn't going to be good, and the Cubs took him out of that role. Since then, he's been really good in not major situations, but he is getting close to me to at least I'm open to the idea with the way he's been pitching to at least seeing Ryan Pressly be back into a area of where you could put him in a high leverage situation occasionally just to see what he's got, because in the low leverage situations, it's been going really well for him. Hasn't given up an earned run in quite a bit amount of time. And just I'm curious to see if the Cubs would do something like that. It was an interesting story they had, during the broadcast today. Part of the reason why he's here, that he has a veteran presence. They talked about how he met with Daniel Palencia in a hotel room after his after the blown save that he had, and basically just told him, "Hey man, throw 101. That's all you need. Is just throw that all the time. You don't need to be working outs or anything like that." So he is important to this this clubhouse, I would say, in that just the veteran presence. But again, Ryan Pressly, 3 strikeouts in this game. He's done a good job since he moved out of a different role on this team. Question here we had in the chat. Most likely starter acquisition. I don't know the answer to that question. The name that we've all been talking about all offseason was Sandy Alcantara. He stinks. He's not good. I don't think that's someone that anyone is going to be looking at to bring in at the deadline at this point. Definitely not the Cubs. He's off my list the way he has pitched this year. The Cubs will need to add a starting pitcher, but I don't think that they will be able to do that specific trade at this point. I like this suggestion here in the chat. Ryan Weathers, he's been good the 2 times he faced the Cubs. Goro says we need a starter. Yeah, look, the Cubs need starting. They've had Colin Ray. Obviously, his last start a little bumpy. Last 2 starts a little bumpy as well. But you look at what Taillon has done, Boyd, Colin Ray this year. They've really kept this thing together for the Cubs in a major way. Without having Justin Steele and Shota. Hopefully Shota will be back at some point in June. I know the diagnosis has been well into June is what the Cubs are saying. I think that's always, to me, screams more like in July. When you hear that timeline, I always just want to push it back a little bit, but you just have to kind of wait and see how a lot of this plays out. The thing that's tough for the Cubs and any team in baseball is the way that they've expanded the playoffs. There's a lot more teams in the playoffs right now. I mean, there are really only probably 5 or 6 clubs in baseball right now that are for sure out of the playoffs, that are not going to make it this year. Like the Orioles, the White Sox, the Rockies. There's not a lot of teams that are in that position at this point in the season. A lot will change between now and June and July 31st. But it's going to be harder to find some of these moves. I think the tough question for the Cubs will be is if you want to give from your outfield to add to your rotation now. That to me is one of the questions that they'll have to face. Great point here in the chat as well. K. Horton, he's done a nice job this year. I mean, he has been pretty much as advertised for the Cubs, and his next start will be coming up here probably. Yeah, I'd imagine here against Washington, who is a team that's kind of heating up a little bit. They've got some young guys on their team that are finally starting to pay off a little bit from the trades, from the Juan Soto trade that they made with the Padres. They're really starting to play some good baseball. They're not a great team. They're kind of similar to the Cincinnati Reds, where they'll probably take one from you, but the expectation, again, should absolutely be they're going to win another division or another series here coming up against the Washington Nationals starting on Tuesday. Again, a lot of baseball for the Cubs. 26 games in 27 days as the Cubs move to 15 games above 500. So enjoy the day off from the Cubs tomorrow. I know some people like it, some people don't, but we'll be back on Tuesday talking all things Chicago Cubs baseball. Thanks for watching. This is the Locked On Cubs postcast. We will talk to you on Tuesday after they play the Nationals. Peace.